At this point, I would like to introduce our historic pageant, Voices from Bridgeport Past. And like I mentioned before, it had been written by Charles Atthill, Mark Lyon, and Marion Jeffery. We have Charles Atthill and Marion Jeffery here playing the role of David and Jane Wood and others. So please enjoy.
I traveled all over this country, prospecting and digging for gold. I call it the cradle, and I have been frequently sold. I have been frequently sold. I have been frequently sold. I call it the cradle, and I have been frequently sold.
Just listen to that sound. The sound of the Yuba River weaving its rocky path through the canyons and valleys, sustaining the very lifeblood of the community. Holy smoly. Nobody told me there was anybody here. I wasn't expecting anybody. You look as though you were expecting me, however. Maybe I should introduce myself. I am David Ingerfield Wood. This is my wife, Jane. And I built the magnificent bridge that spans the Yuba River here at the place we used to call Nye's Crossing. And knowing how proud I am of the bridge and how concerned I am that future generations should care for it and maintain it properly, the old man upstairs lets us come down now and again to check it out and make sure that everything is shipshape. You're not going to go away, are you? No. Do you think I should tell them something about my bridge and the wonderful people whose lives the bridge was part of all those years ago? Well, it just may be that some of what I tell them will be true. I came to these parts in 1850 with my wife Jane and my family, and I bought 2 bridges and a house. One bridge just a stone's throw from where I'm standing, and the other bridge and the house a mile downstream at Port Defiance. Now you may wonder, why would anybody want to buy a bridge? Let alone 2 bridges. They weren't very good bridges, perhaps pontoon bridges, but a reasonably safe way to cross the river. Well, why do I buy a bridge or 2? The answer is simple. To make money. I love the sound of money in the morning. You see, if anybody wanted to cross the Yuba here, they had to pay me.
Of course, once in a while, someone would try to get their horse or buggy across the river on their own. But with the icy water, the swift current, and the rocky riverbed, they weren't likely to try it twice.
It was better to pay me.
We formed the Virginia Turnpike Company to operate a toll road running from what you are calling Lake Wildwood, 11 miles to French Corral.
Where we happen to have a general store, so we get their money twice. Once when they crossed the bridge, and once when they stopped to buy supplies at the general store in French Corral.
Then, in 1857, Lady Fortune really shined down on us.
You see, that was the year when everybody and his brother wanted to cross the Sierra Nevada to Virginia City in Utah Territory because silver had been discovered.
David and his partners bushwhacked a new trail all the way to Virginia City, and not only was it 15 miles shorter than the previous trail, it was also lower in elevation, so it could be traveled all year round. The other trails had to close when it snowed.
I always wanted to be a bushwhacker. The money came pouring into our pockets.
But in 1861, disaster struck. 107 inches of rain fell that winter. The Yuba swelled far beyond its usual banks and washed out almost every bridge around, including ours. But once we collected our wits, we discovered that Lady Fortune had not abandoned us because we were ready.
We had long been talking of building a new bridge, a bigger bridge, a better bridge.
Within 10 months, the new bridge was up, ready for business, and built to survive the next flood.
At the sawmills I had invested in up in Sierra City, up there somewhere, we were soon milling Douglas fir for the members that we would need for the great arches that would support the bridge, and shaving sugar pine for the shakes for the roof, all 27,642 of them, or was it 44 of them? No matter. And casting the iron rods that would give the extra strength that would enable the bridge to carry bigger loads. And with bigger loads come bigger tolls. Toll for a wagon train could be as much as $6. For a single horse wagon, $1.75. 50 cents for a horseman. 2 bits for a footman. 3 cents for every hog and sheep. Oh, those were good days. You could say we were mining the miners.
But this bridge, it was more than just a bridge across a river. For those who could imagine a new life here in the wilds of the country, for those who had the courage to claim it, this was a bridge to the future. From all around the world they came here. And sometimes, if you listen carefully, and if the wind is blowing in just the right direction, you can still hear their voices. Some came with the dream of striking it rich in the gold fields.
Some came to escape the law.
But they all came with the dream of a new life, a better life.
But others were here before them, as unprepared for the onslaught of the gold-seeking foreigners, as the foreigners were unprepared for the dangers of their new life. The sound of wolves, grizzlies, rattlers, echoing through the night air, a warning of the dangers that surrounded them. They feared attack from the Indians, for the trails that they followed were Indian trails. But when they came upon them, they turned out to be a gentle and peaceable people.
We are the Nisenan. This is our home. We live simply with the earth. We take care of her creatures. The river gives us fish. The plants are sources of food and medicine and tools and weapons. The oak trees drop acorns into our hands, and we soak them in the water of the river, and we eat well. Not so long ago, we were many. We were children and families and villages. We had ceremonies and ways. Then the white men came. They brought disease. They hunted us down with weapons. They chopped down the oak trees and changed the course of the river. The fish come no more, the deer have fled, and our villages are gone. We are a people. We became a persecuted people. It is 1850.
I'm Charles Cole. I came to California when I was 19. I'm a carpenter by trade. I planned to build homes for the prospectors. But prospectors' homes were temporary things. The prospectors would move on. There was no great demand for my skill. When I came to Bridgeport, Captain William Thompson had newly arrived from England with his wife, Marion, and their infant daughter, Fanny. They asked me to help them finish building their home and their barn, and to build a milking barn for the cows. We tried prospecting for gold in the river. We tried digging tunnels and shafts, seeking elusive veins of gold, but the easy gold was already gone in the great rush of 1849. We planted fruit trees. We planted a vineyard. We planted vegetables, watered by a channel we dug from the river. We had livestock. We had cattle, sheep, horses, hogs. Over time, the farm spread along the valley, hundreds of acres. I loved Captain Thompson like a father, but he fell ill, and shortly before he died, he asked me to take care of the farm and of Mary Ann and of little Fanny, to care for them and protect them. He loved this place so much that when he died, we buried him here in the cemetery up the road. God bless his soul. With time, my love of Mary Ann grew, and she consented to marry me. But poor Fanny, she fell ill and died not long after. She was just 6 years old. But Mary Ann and I went on and had 5 children, 4 girls and a boy. It's 1854.
It was only a year after the death of my dear husband, William, that I married Charles Cole. We ran the farm together. I took care of the children and tended the garden and the orchard. I collected bridge tolls for Mr. Wood and welcomed travelers into our home. Sometimes there were so many travelers, I felt like I was running a hotel.
When the new bridge opened, there were 100 wagons a day coming through the Turnpike. We had to build rock walls to keep them under control and keep them out of our property and out of our fields.
One time, not long after the bridge had opened, a large wagon train came through. It was the Macmillan party, and they arrived in the midst of a raging storm.
We managed to shelter all 10 of their wagons in the covered bridge, and all their animals in the barn.
And I invited them into my kitchen to prepare their meals. When the weather finally broke, we made enough apple pie for everyone. But it was still 4 days for the roads to get dry enough for them to pull out. Oh, but not all of our visitors were welcome. I once chased a hanging party from my front yard. In they rode on their fast horses, expecting to hang Yankee Jim Knowlton from the oak tree in my front yard.
You can get very feisty when you're riled up, can't you?
I convinced them to hang him from the old bridge down at Point Defiance. Well, he had been convicted of a jury of his peers. Cattle stealing.
A terrible crime. It's 1862.
I am Victoria Cole Kneebone. Third child of Marion and Charles Cole, and I was born the year the covered bridge was built. I met my husband right here under that bridge. I had already reached the ripe old age of 24. His name was Andrew Kneebone. Woo! He was a teamster, and he traveled through here carrying supplies up to the Comstock, and when I would hear them jingle bells on his rig coming down the mountain, I would drop whatever I was doing and run to the bridge to see him. My ma never stopped me, 'cause she was still hopeful that I would not be an old maid forever. We was married in Marysville in 1887, and my ma breathed a sigh of relief. We live in Spenceville now, but we get down here quite a bit to look after my pa. My husband is a handsome man, if I do say so myself.
Not so bad looking yourself, Victoria Cole Kneebone. I came here when I was 16 years old, from England, but you would probably not recognize that. My parents had come before me, and I made my fare selling firewood in the streets of London. Most of what I know about teamstering I learned from my father and my older brother Joe, teamsters both. I am a jerk. I'm sorry. I am a jerk team driver. I drive a jerk line team. 10, 12, sometimes as many as 18 horses and mules. I mix the horses and mules because the mules are better up front, they are more sure-footed and smarter than horses. I may pull 1, 2, even 3 wagons laden with cargo, and my train may be 80 feet long or more, so that when I go round a curve in the road or through the covered bridge, my team goes out of sight. Now listen up. I will tell you how to drive a jerk line team. There will be a test. And if you pass the test and you want the job, it pays $1 a day. And you'd be glad to have it in these hard times. To drive my jerkline train, I sit on the near wheeler. That's the left-hand horse closest to the wagon. And I control the train with the jerk line that runs up to the lead horse, to the bit of the lead horse, and the brake line that runs to the backmost of the wagons. And I have my black snake, much bleached from the sun. My black snake, my whip as I call it. But mostly I just speak real nice to my animals. I never have to hit them with the whip. I just crack it over their heads. Ow, that hurt. To get their attention. And there are rules of the road for teamsters. The team going uphill has the right of way. The team going downhill must be unhitched and led off the road to allow the upward traffic to pass safely by. And as a courtesy, an empty wagon will also be led off the road to make way for me if I am carrying a cargo.
Me and Andy had 5 strapping boys. Not a girl in the bunch. Our middle one, Alfred, he stayed here. He loves this place as much as I do. He's got a head on him, that one. He's gonna make things happen. My ma saw that about him too.
You did.
Since Ma's passing, Pa's not doing so good. But he finds comfort in the everyday things, the river, the birds, the chores. Andy and I help him out as much as we can, and I keep him well stocked in apple pies. I'm afraid he don't eat right. And we come out here and we walk around admiring and making lists of things to do, and we sit out there under the mulberry trees. Now the reason we got so many mulberry trees, me and my sister took it upon us to raise silkworms. And we planted them mulberry trees so the worms would have something to eat.
Well, growing worms isn't my idea of something romantic. But then being a teamster isn't always as romantic as it sounds either. In early 1888, my brother Joe was driving his train down the Spencerville Toll from Indian Springs when 2 outlaws leapt from their hiding place and shot him dead. They dragged him through the fence and stole his boots to make it look like a robbery. The sheriff never did find the villains who committed that terrible deed. 20 years later, my father, who knows why, was shot to death in the front yard of our house in Spencerville. The sheriff never caught the villains of that killing either. So when they talk about looking for a burial place for the outlaw Yankee Jim hanged from the old bridge for cattle rustling, I feel it sorely.
Mom, I'm playing a game on your phone.
Too much apple pie.
My husband Andy, he's one of the best teamsters in the West, maybe in the whole world. He has won many a bet based on what he can do better than you.
Not hard. But I am more proud of anything. I'm not. I am more proud of my beautiful wife Victoria than of any of my achievements as a teamster. She blessed me when she said yes. Now, excuse me a moment. Talk quietly amongst yourselves.
It is 1869.
Try. Let me get that.
It was too good to last.
Remember that.
The traffic to the Comstock, the marvel of my bridge, the largest single-span bridge of its kind,
Me? Yes. My turn.
the great benefits it brought to the community and the travelers, not to mention the money it brought me and my partners.
Some called it the greatest event in the history of transport. At Promontory Point in Utah, on May the 10th, The great transcontinental railroad was completed, pretty much putting my husband David Wood out of business. Who would need the covered bridge and the Virginia Turnpike when the railroad could deliver mining supplies faster and cheaper and much more easily? My husband was a man of vision, but those railway building robber barons could see further. But there is irony in this situation. David's bridge was so successful due to the iron truss. The iron truss was invented by the railroad. And the railroad led to David's bankruptcy.
Oh well, I shall go on to bigger and better things. I, David Wood, bridge builder, who bridged the mighty Yuba with the great covered bridge, I will bridge the Golden Gate. They say it can't be done. I shall show them it can and will be done. I, David Wood, mastermind of the Virginia Turnpike, will build a network of highways across this great nation so that our wagons can get there faster. I, David Wood, inspired by those very robber barons, will build a railroad the length of the state of California with trains of unimaginable speed powered by rockets.
David!
A man can dream.
Time passes. It is 1927.
I don't wanna play this game. Whoa.
Now, our son Alfred, the one I told you about,
He wasn't just interested in the farm and the bridge and the river. He had other ideas too. He was an entrepreneur and a capitalist. He assayed and bought gold from the prospectors and the Indians. He had a retort in the store building to melt down the gold. He bought gold for $18 an ounce, and he sold it for $20.67. It's a fixed price, but a fair price, and one that I think will never be bettered.
he bought him a Model A Ford, and he runs the farm, and he runs a grocery store, and he runs this Shell gas station where gasoline is 12 cents a gallon.
That's
is
outrageous.
And he and his wife Lucy built the family swimming and pleasure resort just upriver by the big swimming hole. They built 5 cabins and 2 changing rooms and a dance pavilion. And they have entertainment and music most every night.
Whoa.
But times change.
The resort was not open for many years.
I can't do it.
The Great Depression set in. The swimming pool and the river were muddied by illegal upstream mining operations.
They rented out the cabins to families who were down on their luck, and they even rented out the changing rooms to prospectors.
It was a rough and tumble existence.
I'm not playing it.
Life and sudden death jostling each other.
What?
Nature unpredictable, creating disasters and opportunities.
This is not a game.
The quirks of fortune indifferent to persons.
Our forebears utilized daring and courage and perseverance and foresight. And with the graces of Lady Fortune, they created for themselves the lives they dreamed of. Listen,
I'm going first.
the voices of Bridgeport. They came here, or they were born here. And some died here and are buried in the Kneebone Cemetery up the road.
Now it's our turn to cherish and protect the river, the bridge, the barn, this beautiful place that means so much to so many of us. It's our history. It's our heritage. Let us mind it well.
ABC.
We've got some time built in to kind of take a look. We've got potential for a barn tour here. Please feel free, if you haven't already done so, to go into the visitor center, walk down, take a look at the bridge. At about 4 o'clock, which is in about 20 minutes or so, we'll have wine and some hors d'oeuvres on the visitor center lawn, and we'll be serenaded by the Wildwood Barbershop Quartet. So please feel free to take some time to look around.